Welcome to MOTS, where we'll be applying the Manzer or Mosi-Thurlow scale of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative through a binary system.
Or MOTS! This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion advised.
Ho, ho, ho. Welcome to the MOTS Christmas Special Edition.
Ooh.
I am Scott Thurlow, as always, and I'm joined by Stephen Amosi.
Hello.
And Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Ayo Satanalia.
Yes, and we have just seen the recent movie Krampus in honor of this amazing holiday. So, Steve, I believe you have a sort of log line about this movie.
Yep, this is Demon Santa and his bag of gremlins comes to haunt the worst family ever.
Yes. And Ian, you have the...
Alright, so the basic premise of this movie is a little kid who is the stereotypical kind of fantasy main character from the 80s and 90s style movies like Gremlins or Toy Soldiers. Yeah, he believes in Santa, or at least he has this idea of what Christmas is, and is embittered by the commercialization and the family and drama. So he rips up his letter to Santa, thus summoning Krampus, who decides to revenge and beat in the spirit of Christmas into all of these.
I don't know if he decides to, he just does.
Yeah, that's what he does. And and then he realizes the mistake in trying to force Christmas upon people.
You know, that sounds about right to me. So let's jump into it. The introduction to Krampus. Stephen, what do you think of it?
So the first scene was just a mad dash into a store. I'm assuming like on a Black Friday or something. Just shots of a bunch of people stomping all over each other and beating the shit out of each other, set to Christmassy music.
I believe the official term is trampoline.
Yes,
but set to Christmas music, and that was actually a fun scene. And then you got into kind of the what's happening with the family, and the little kid has just started a fight in the middle of his school play, I guess. And
Christmas play.
Right.
It's fighting with Joseph, I believe.
By the way, why is there a Christmas play in the middle of this Walmart?
I don't know. I don't understand.
It's not officially a Walmart, but it might as well be.
That was odd, but maybe it was supposed to cut to it. But it seemed like as if it were happening in
it
the
might have been a cut to his school or something.
Anyways.
I don't know. But I think that's mostly... The introduction kind of ends when they get back to the house. They punish the kid, Max, for basically being a jerk in the middle of his school play or Walmart play or whatever. And then he kind of finishes up his letter to Santa. You get introduced to the grandmother briefly. She's like baking cookies and speaking in German. And then the cousins show up, and I think that's kind of the end of the introduction.
I would disagree. I think the end of the introduction is the moment before Krampus shows up.
It's when the clouds roll in.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to call it as.
Because if you think of it in the fairy tale structure, it very much works in that style. That this is like the moment where reality bends.
Seems obvious to me. Is it what?
Yeah, I suppose so.
To be clear, we'll go back. You said what happens is he attempts to finish his letter to Santa, and his father comes in. Adam Scott comes in and says, we can still mail it. And you think like it shows like he's gonna come through, and then he just rips it up and throws it out the window, and it flies into the air in a very dark and foreboding skyline. And that's when a supernatural storm rolls in, which I counted as the introduction. Like, that's where it starts.
This is after a bunch of fighting between the family and everything.
It also introduces you to his family and how they don't really get along, and they're all trying to be in the same place for Christmas, but they're clearly not the closest family in the world.
But I also think that there's intentional kind of the divide between the stereotypical kind of liberal household and the stereotypical kind of Republican household. Because they have...
Surfacely.
Yeah, like the main characters, they're serving creme brulee and quiche. I don't understand what these foods are. I can't pronounce half of them. So, in a sense, the Max and his direct family are the suburbanites. They're not wealthy, but I would say upper middle class.
Yes.
Right.
Very posh. His sister is always playing on her cell phone. The mother takes Xanax because she's a nervous wreck. The kind of marriage is falling apart. The father's a workaholic. Then in comes the second part of the family, which has a drunk aunt who's played by the maid from 2.5 Men. I adored her in this. Then you have what's the actor's name? He plays Howard, but he's a famous middle famous comedian.
David Koechner.
Yeah,
he's been in a lot of things.
Anchorman.
He plays the same guy almost.
Yeah.
Always. But
yeah, he's playing a kind of redneck. I carry guns in my car. I'm a hunter, and it's played to the extreme. really in the first act. His wife is kind of the chubby, bumbling, good-natured individual. He has 2 tomboy daughters and a mentally retarded son, I suppose.
I don't know if that's true or not, but he certainly wasn't all there, I guess.
And a baby. Yeah, and then there's the grandmother, the German grandmother, who was awesome. Yeah, that's the entire family. Of course, they have their culture clashes and things like that, I think.
Well, I definitely like the montage of people getting trampled because it's everything that's horrible about Christmas to me. And to be clear, I do not like Christmas as a holiday, and not even as a kid really didn't like it. But I think it was well done. It was clever enough. This holiday has become in modern times. If I may interject something, there's a commercial running right now on TV. Perhaps the audience may have seen it, where the tagline is "Win the holidays." That's what it's come to, and I think that's well encapsulated in both that opening scene and their actual introduction to their family, and how everyone is struggling just to try to get along, but it all falls apart. And Max, the kid, he says, I think he says, "I hate you all. I hate Christmas." And that was the impetus for tearing up the letter, thus bringing on the supernatural Krampus storm.
And also something that they have constantly through the introduction is, and throughout the first half of the movie, they insert classic Christmas specials. Or reference them. They have Charlie Brown.
They're watching A Christmas Story, or not Christmas Story,
Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
So, in a way, it's almost a commentary on the idealism.
Yes.
Of, like, yeah, this is the reality, but somehow we've captured this notion that Christmas is something special, and the disappointment that comes with it, we can never achieve that. So, I don't know, I kind of really like the interplay. Yeah, it was over the top. It kind of felt, if anyone has seen the movie Santa Slays, it's almost the same beginning. I imagine, like, they subvert, they take 2 different directions with this, but it kind of has the same opening
the setup
scene
is
with
similar,
the
sure.
family sitting around. Almost every character is insufferable at first, but I don't know, so they won me over in the end. But
yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good setup. I'm giving it a 1.
I will give it a 1 for the store scene, for sure. I like that scene. But I wasn't the biggest fan of meeting the fan. I thought it was kind of after they got finished like yelling at Max, it kind of got boring for me. Like in the beginning, meeting all the family members and dealing with their bullshit, I just didn't care. I never cared about any of them.
Well, that's because you have the perfect family.
Yeah.
So
I guess so.
You can't relate to the troubles of a mediocre to terrible Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah, that seems right.
Well, anyways, let's go on to the body of Krampus, Ian.
What a body it is.
Yes.
So, basically, I was expecting this to be a straight horror movie. And it was more along the lines of, as mentioned earlier, Gremlins. Oddly enough, a lot of Tremors in there.
A bit of Tremors.
Oh, it was a bit of Tremors, and then they went full Tremors later on.
I think, before you go on, I just want to say, yeah, you're right about that. They sort of threw in, I'm going to say another one, another horror-ish series that they sort of homage/ripped off. But look, they threw a bunch into a blender, and it wasn't as good, of course, as the original source material. There were elements of a number of those things in it.
Oh, what was the one you were going to reference, though?
Evil Dead, as well.
Yeah, Evil Dead's definitely, they do the whole... There's a scene in there, which I don't know if it's in the conclusion or not, but where Howard, who's the redneck brother-in-law, is fighting off a bunch of gingerbread men with a shotgun.
Yeah.
I don't know, they're like, Krampus does not really attack straight away. He sends his minions out, and there's all these kind of pseudo-Christmas themed villains, like a Jack-in-the-Box character. Or another thing they ripped off was Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not ripped off. Because I actually like what you could tell that the person who made this movie loved both old school Christmas specials and crappy horror movies. So he kind of melded them into a movie you don't see very much anymore.
Yeah, well, it's kind of difficult to make a Christmas horror movie.
Yeah, but I think Gremlins was a fantastic Christmas horror movie.
Kind of, yeah. But...
I mean, heck, Die Hard was a fantastic Christmas action movie.
Right.
So it's possible to go in.
It's just you don't see very often, is what I'm saying. These nowadays as well.
So it goes through kind of the stereotypical motions of a horror film. They slowly realize it's going up. It's a little bit like a zombie film where they bore themselves in. They're trying to find methods of escaping, and Krampus is always kind of a step ahead of them. Slowly, one by one, they're picked off until the ending is when they decide to book it from the house and
I think that's
together. The Christmas tree, or one of the things is the fireplace keeps Krampus out as long as the fireplace is lit. But the minute it goes out, he can come in. They actually do kind of a cruel scene where they're dangling a gingerbread man through the fireplace, and the fat kid is the only one up at the moment. So he runs and I don't know why someone would eat a cookie that came out of the fireplace.
Like I said, he may not be all there, but he sees the gingerbread coming from the chimney and goes to eat it, and that does not work out well, of course.
So it's not implied that any of these characters die, though. You don't see anyone get killed on screen.
That's true. There's like no blood even at all.
They get dragged away.
Yeah, well, that's what Krampus does. He stuffs you in a sack or whatever.
Or Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically the whole body of whether you want to go into detail or not. You've seen a lot of this before, and I do have one kind of thing that subverted a thought of my own. They attempted to do a tell but don't show. They introduce in the background, and then they wait until about halfway through to start throwing a lot of the action pieces at you. But I don't think it worked, and I always thought that was the best way to run this kind of movie. But maybe they waited too long to throw the fun action pieces at you.
I see what you're saying, but I don't quite agree to the degree that it seems that you're purporting to. I get it. I personally thought the body itself was, it was bog standard, but that meant it was fine. You know, it had every element needed to have, and the set pieces happened when I thought they were going to happen and when they needed to. Yes. So I didn't think they fucked up in any way.
No, it was paced. I felt it was paced well. They had touching moments where characters are bonding, which is what Christmas is all about.
The bog standard-ish kind of
Krampus
stuff.
is all about, I suppose.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter in the end anyway. If you're bonding, it made no difference.
Hey.
Well, we'll get to that. But
every family needs a Krampus. That's all I'm saying.
So it seems. Well, that goes into themes. But either way, I just want to say, I mean, I think that overall, if not surprising, it did everything it needed to do in a workmanlike way.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good description of it, but that makes it not great for me.
Sure.
I know I don't know. I felt like I kept feeling like this film was trying to be more fun than it was being the entire time, and I also felt like it was trying to stay as filled with horror as like any other horror movie, but it wasn't. Like they tried to send in these things that made it kind of ridiculous and broke you out of that horror movie type.
Evil Dead style is what I got out of it, but
yeah, but Evil Dead did it so much better and actually kept you in the horror frame of mind. Whereas I don't think this one did.
I think Steve and I agree on this point. I'm not being a Grinch about it, Steve.
Well,
I think it did. I don't think it did it poorly. I think it could have been executed better, but it certainly could have been executed much worse. So in all, this guy hit all the notes it needed to.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying, and that's why I'm going to give it a decent one.
I don't know. It didn't hit all of those notes for me.
That's fine.
Like you guys, I know you guys enjoyed it more than I did. That's for sure.
Krampus is not for everyone.
Name the better Christmas horror movie.
Name the better Christmas horror movie.
A better horror movie.
Gremlins. You just named it earlier.
Oh, that's a.
It's not really about Christmas, so I don't want to get caught up in this.
All right. Well, fucking Santa's Sleigh was better. First of all, that was a horror movie that knew what it was and fucking enjoyed itself a lot more than this movie.
Silent Night, Deadly Night, Black Christmas. I don't know. I think this movie enjoyed the hell out of itself. I thought it was very charming. I don't know.
It had fun with itself.
As Scott just said, it felt kind of worksman-like at a lot of points to me.
And you didn't get as much fun out of it.
Which wasn't enjoyable to me.
That's all. That's fair. That's fine.
Seeing a carpenter make a set of stairs isn't that much fun to me.
Oh, are you saying you don't enjoy watching elves work? Look at this guy. You don't have the Krampus is coming after you.
He's an elitist.
Those elves were terrible anyway.
But anyway, I'm going to give it a solid 1.
I'm going to give it a 0.
All right.
I'm going to give it a 1 as well because I thought it was charming.
All right. So now we're on to conclusion, and to me, I believe I agree with you that it begins when they all decide, after having fought off the horrors of Krampus in the house and boarded the house up and lost family members, they decide to make a break for the snowplow, I believe. They found it earlier. Mm-hmm. Early on in the body, they go out to search for their daughter, for Beth's, who disappeared first.
And then they
never found her, and they get attacked.
Very quickly
they
give
get
up
attacked,
on it.
Come back and barricade themselves in. Finally decide to, after having their grandmother explain, but I think that was a cool scene, explain the history of Krampus.
Actually, that was...
it was nice. It was sort of like claymation style, almost. So she's describing what happened when she was a little girl, and the same thing happened to her, and she wished for everyone to go away, and Krampus murdered her whole village. That's what it's implied to be anyways.
So I like that scene, except for it seemed way out of place when it came up. It was like, the kid goes up the chimney, she's like, let me tell you about the Krampus.
Yeah, well.
No, first of all...
And everybody sits around, the entire family sits around while the kid just went up the chimney, like...
Hey.
She's speaking German the entire time.
Yes.
Switches to English for the scene, and then goes back to speaking.
Yeah, but
German.
she does get called out on that by another character, anyways.
But I felt that was a very much a old school Christmas special move. The one
Right?
with the
No,
elf.
like I said, I like the scene. I think that they should have done it in a better spot than that.
He's saying it wasn't as clever or whatever. Maybe,
It was so ridiculous that
fine.
you just go from.
But you have to wait until people are willing to believe the Krampus before you lay out that.
Yeah. However, the kid literally just went up the chimney. You could be trying to get him back, but instead you sit down to listen to this fucking old German lady
and they
story.
couldn't do it. He got dragged up and his
Again,
shoe fell back
barely. Just the same amount they tried to get their daughter back.
I've heard plenty of people criticize horror movies for saying, "Oh, why is everyone sacrificing their life for one person?" They put in a reasonable effort, realize they're outmatched, and decide to save a ton of other children that are there present. So,
well, a couple of other children. But anyway, none of that's conclusion really. But since we brought that scene up to the actual conclusion, the remaining family members decide to brave the still ongoing storm to try to escape the area, or at least go to try to find if anyone else is home, or go to the police station, I believe, or the mall, because it's a shelter. When they're doing so, Tom, the father, has to stand off with, the tremors, whatever's eating things from underneath the snow, and then basically he gets eaten, his wife gets eaten, then it's Max, the kid, and his two cousins, or one cousin who's left. She gets eaten. Finally, he decides to confront Krampus himself, decides to say, it's a classic thing. I think this is a pretty good subversion during inclusion. He's like, no, take me instead and save everyone else. And he does get taken, but everyone else also still gets stuck in the nether underworld of whatever hell that Krampus sends him to. And then it pulls out, of course, it does a nice little fake out where he wakes up and it's a normal Christmas morning. It's like, oh, it's all a bad dream. And he goes down to the living room to celebrate, and he gets a present. And the present is, of course, it's sort of a callback from earlier. It's a Christmas ball that has Krampus's name on it, an old rusty iron old school one, and everyone in the family sort of looks at it oddly and realizes that perhaps it's not really just a dream after all. Then it pans out to reveal them being that entire scene. Their house is encapsulated in a snow globe in Krampus's evil collection.
I will say that this conclusion either needed to be 5 minutes shorter or had one extra scene, because there's a moment in there where
it did feel a little abrupt. I will say that,
because there was this one scene where he, as the sole survivor, Max, the little kid who initially wished for Krampus, or didn't wish for his family to disappear.
He gave up hope on Christmas. That was his major sin.
Very Macaulay Culkin-esque from Home Alone.
Yes.
And Krampus walks up to him and just tosses him
the ornament.
The ornament. And if it ended there, that would have been kind of a fantastically dark ending out of nowhere. I never expected them to do that, but if the screen had gone black there, I would have been in far more love with this movie.
Or better,
John Carpenter style.
Or they should have had the cackle of the Crypt Keeper at the very end as he gave the epilogue to this. Because it was, I just realized, it was incredibly like a Tales from the Crypt episode.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But either way, I thought it was still fine. They did an okay subversion, even if it wasn't the most amazing one ever. And I sort of do like that, the image of Krampus. I brought this up to you guys earlier, and I'll say it now. It sort of implies that he also, not just his family, he doomed the entire neighborhood. So it seemed, or you could possibly get that out of it. The question is, of course, is everyone else in the neighborhood just as dickish as his family and deserves it, or did it just by default?
It seemed like that guy,
like the village thing that his grandmother did.
Early on in the film, there's a postal service. I forget what the company he worked for it was.
DHL.
DHL. And he's the only person you see who dies in this film.
Yeah.
Is he still alive? If he is, does he have memories of what it's like to be dead?
No,
he's
he was
frozen
braving. He's frozen in his car.
He was braving a blizzard to deliver packages to people to benefit them, to get them for Christmas.
Listen,
so this man is the hardest working man in DHL, and he suffers.
He used to be, at least.
Certainly not anymore.
Listen, sometimes there's a collateral damage in a Krampus revenge. So, well, anyway, I'm going to give it a 1. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Again, was it the most clever, amazing thing ever? No, but I think it was more clever than perhaps I expected. Better pulled off than that, even if I somewhat agree that it could have been cut off earlier, or it had a couple of things that may not have been necessary, but overall I think it held together for me.
So, this is a tough one for me. I enjoyed the very end of it, where everybody is in, they have the house in the snow globe, and there's 1,000 other snow globes in this little snow globe dungeon. But the part where Max confronts the Krampus was I was cringing during it when he's yelling at him.
It was very Guillermo del Toro, like poor man's Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, I guess so.
I kind of agree with that. It was like a little unnecessary as
It was,
well. Like I said.
it was just, I don't know.
I liked it because of the kind of subversion on the Christmas tale. In any other story of where the young kid who's
Scrappy
trying to find
hero, yeah.
Scrappy hero, when he goes to confront the monster with the power of love, and Krampus even wipes a tear away from his eyes, and then laughs at him, throws his cousin
him into hell,
and throws him into hell.
That's true.
I
like that.
I like that kind of because if this movie were made in the 80s, it would have been like a Dark Labyrinth type thing, or Never-Ending Story style. Power of Love.
Yeah, back in the 80s and the early 90s, Power of Love still could conquer all. Nowadays, not so much. Krampus still says, fuck you.
Exactly. So, I have to give it credit for that subversion there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a soft one on that.
I'm giving it a solid one, decent one.
I'm going to give it a soft one because I just have to make one last point. The charm started to wear thin on me for a little bit towards the end. I was starting to get bored watching it. But again, the ending was fine enough that I wasn't expecting much from this movie going in. So,
all right, bringing us to themes, Steven.
Themes. I guess the theme is don't be a family of assholes. Or I guess that's the message more than the theme.
The theme is
assholes get thrown into hell by Krampus.
Those themes, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, sure. Like, it's not like the deepest thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of talking about how Christmas has become
commercialized.
Yeah, commercialized. Not even that so much. Like just this time of like annoyance with your family, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
for a lot of people, that's kind of the idea.
Adam Scott even gives him Max a speech. You know, we have to be friends with people because they share DNA. Like, yeah, that's true. And he goes, why?
But why? Yeah.
And he got me there. Yeah, it's sort of stuck. You're stuck with your family, and many people view their family as unlikable persons that they don't really want to be around.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't bowl me over with anything.
Right, but because there wasn't
the
a really
deepness of this film.
Go Ian's got something.
Let's go into the bowels of hell.
All right.
The themes here.
Let's do it.
Okay. First of all, I want to bring up a question for you guys. We have Saint Nick and we have Krampus, who are two sides of the same coin. One is rewarding you for good behavior, and one is punishing you for bad behavior. But theoretically, you're also getting punished.
You're not even punished for bad behavior, though. You're just punished for wishing that your family wasn't there.
You're not getting punished. That's not how Krampus views it. You're being rewarded. And those without the Christmas spirit. So is it better to have a society built upon the idea that good behavior is rewarded or bad behavior is punished?
I don't know Machiavelli. We'll discuss that later in a different episode. But I also want to somewhat counter that. Technically, Santa also punishes you with coal for bad behavior. So he can take care of both jobs. He's doing double duty.
People die hunting for coal.
Yeah,
so
true, but
I actually think there's kind of the
thing is
very depressing undercurrent to this entire movie.
Yeah, which is why I kind of like it.
But the whole thing is the Krampus doesn't show up because you're bad. The Krampus shows up because somebody wished for their family to go away.
The message behind this movie, because it's all focused on Max here, is that he grew up on the idea of this. I referenced this earlier, so I apologize for retreading, but he referenced this earlier that like he loves the Christmas spirit. He loves the idea. He's Charlie Brown in a lot of ways, and he is saddened by the fact that no one else around him he gets into a fight early on because the kid told one of his peers told the first graders that it wasn't real, and then in the very end he realizes that in order to have a good Christmas spirit, you have to suck up your childhood like whimsy and just deal with your asshole family. And that even if no one else believes, like, it doesn't matter. What's the other option? Summoning Krampus and killing everyone? So become a man.
No,
Santa Claus doesn't exist. Get over it.
No, Krampus gave him his wish. Yeah. At the end, Krampus gave him the wish to have the awesome Christmas with his family for all time, forever.
I don't think that was. Do you think that was what was implied by the end?
I think
you could get that out of it. Like that's what I was thinking to myself. That's why I thought, like you said, it was a Tales from the Crypt-ish thing and a Twilight Zone-ish thing that
I thought it was more of a kind of a. He woke up on Christmas Day, and this is Krampus watching over the work he did.
Oh, no way! I took it as they're all trapped in the underworld in their balls.
Well, I took it.
I like that way better than Krampus keeping an eye on them.
But that adds to the element of like the fantasy, because it's weird how far you want to drag this into the horror aspect or into the fantasy adventure aspect, because it has distinct elements of both, and really the ending would depend on your interpretation of whether this was a fantasy romp or a horror movie.
Well, I think they sort of left it open-ended, but I think I would side a bit more on the darker horror part of it, which maybe just is me. I'm just
summon Krampus right now.
I'm projecting. Yeah, I wish I could summon Krampus for Christmas.
I feel like that was the whole point of all the family having this look of horror on their faces.
Yeah,
they saw
I thought that was them realizing that everything hadn't been a dream, that they all shared that nightmare, and
and now they're stuck in it. But again,
they've been thrown into hell.
A bit open-ended on that point, but I like to take that interpretation from it, and if that's part of the themes, I'm going to give it a 1. I also again like the theme of highlighting how Christmas has just become a chore, really.
Well, when was it ever not a chore?
Again, commercialized as well, right? But it's even more so, even modern times.
What, back in the day, we had to go bring greenery into our house in order to preserve it for the nature gods? That doesn't sound like less work than what we do now.
Sure, but now because of technology where we are, you can just sit there and ignore your family, and you'll still hate them. They were watching their little movies on their little iPads.
And becoming bitter adults.
Yeah. They're doing their best to ignore each other while being in the same room. So anyways, because of all that, I would have been ignoring all them too. Yeah, well,
just as we're ignoring you now.
And then you'd be pulled through the chimney by Krampus. So I'm giving themes a 1.
Yeah,
0. I didn't care for it.
All right.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
Well, speaking of all that, you can talk about the antagonists, Ian. I think, is an interesting one.
It depends on if you want to look at it again through the horror or the fantasy.
Sure.
I view this more as a fantasy romp, so I didn't think necessarily that Krampus was the villain.
I agree with that.
I think that he was a manifestation of the weird kind of...
You stole my word. I would definitely use it as a manifestation of Max's dark wishes, perhaps.
Yeah. But
he's a force of nature unto himself. He's not showing up out of nowhere. He's showing up because Max wished for it. Essentially,
it's almost like the again. If you, I'm going to interpret it through the concepts of the fairy tale through the fantasy of like the wishbone type thing,
right.
Where you're
of course the monkey's paw.
The monkey paw, exactly. And you can't blame them. The monkey's paw is not the villain of that tale. So I don't think Krampus is either. Even though if you want to view it through the horror one, he definitely is.
Sure.
But the concept of it is, I would say, the positive portrayal of Christmas through countless Christmas specials is the villain, because they embitter people.
They set up a false standard.
I don't mean to jump forward into protagonists, but I think it's as important to determining who the antagonist is. I would say as much as Max is the obvious protagonist, his father is very much one of the main characters in there and has the most... Maybe it's because of the force of the actor, but I feel that character is a projection. Like Max is maybe the screenwriter, the projection of the screenwriter as a child, and his father, the adult, who's drowned in work and has to... He almost has more of a coming-of-age tale than his son does. And that idea of being told throughout your entire life that Christmas is special, and then having to grow up and realize that it's dealing with people you dislike.
It's a fucking nightmare. Or
having
can be.
to go shopping for people, and commercialization is very embittering thing. And Krampus is the representation of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm declaring war on Christmas. It's your fault, Bill O'Reilly.
It's okay. Christmas declared war on you. But I mean, I largely agree with all of that. That's basically what I got out of it. I think perhaps the entire family could be seen as somewhat as the antagonist, but you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of split both ways. Portraying the downside, the harsh reality of this holiday that many people experience, and without the actual joy that's been shown to you through the idealized specials and so forth.
The only thing I would argue with the family is that I think that every single character who's given screen time has a redemptive
small
moment.
arc. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Like you said, it's hard to, or at least we're trying to get at what we consider the actual antagonist. I think it's sort of a mixture of a bit of both. Like Krampus, yeah, he's a force of nature, but again, it's like he's showing up out of nowhere just to do this for no reason. He has a backstory, and he only shows up when he's wished for, essentially. It's a be careful what you wish for sort of proverb thing. And I think there's a line in the film that the grandmother says he's the dark reflection of Saint Nicholas or something like that. So yeah, he's the opposite side of the coin. And he shows up when you lose hope and spirit and Christmas. He comes and takes it away, takes your family away from you.
I mean, here's my argument for Krampus as the antagonist. When Max confronts him and says, "You can change this," or whatever, like whatever he actually says. I think he says something like, "You can change all this. I know you can like put it back or give my family back." And Krampus just laughs at him.
And he does at the end.
But the fact that he just laughs at him, knowing kind of in that agreement that yes, he could change it if he wanted to, but he's not going to, and laughing at him makes him an antagonist. That's antagonizing the main kid. The quote unquote hero.
I don't disagree. I think I can list all of the things we just said as antagonists and give them credit on the fronts that we said about them.
It's how you wish to view. In a sense, I would say that it's if you're watching Peter Pan and viewing Captain Hook as a villain, or adulthood and like the responsibility of growing up as the villain.
Right.
So.
I agree. Well,
I mean, I agree.
I see your point, Steve. I see your point about it, and I said my point and a bit of Ian's as well, but all that is going to be a 1 for me.
Yeah, I'll give Krampus a 1.
He was well designed as well. We'll speak to that later on. E? 1?
Yes, we 1.
All right. Which brings me to protagonists. So, like you said, it's not difficult to pick out who they are. It's difficult to say whether I like them. I didn't, actually. So it's not that difficult. But that's sort of the point in this film. That, yeah, even Max himself could somewhat be... Like, he started out with a fight, and sure, his reasons for that perhaps were noble, but regardless, he fell prey to the war on Christmas got him, if you will. So, yeah, everyone did a good job in their roles. Like, they're basically playing cliches, you know, the horror, like you said, like the redneck family, and they eat mac and cheese and hot dogs, and versus, like, the upper posh middle-class family, and, you know, their old-school grandmother who knows the dark secret, essentially, about Christmas and all that. And so, they all serve their role fine, but there's no character I could identify with, really. But that may have been the point. So this is a difficult one to score, like, in terms of what the movie itself wanted and what I got out of it.
Well, do you think the entire family is the protagonist?
Yeah, collectively, yeah, sort of. Each one were small antagonists unto themselves, or could be at least. But of course, they set you up for that. The power of family and friendship will overcome evil forces or whatever. But that didn't really happen. You know, again, they subverted it. So it's really difficult because I didn't like them overall, but the point of it sort of was that to me. So maybe I'll phrase it this way. Since the movie wanted you to think that about the characters, at least that's how I got out of it, and all the characters did a good job of playing those roles, then I think they deserve a scrappy 1, if not...
I don't know. I think you were supposed to at least like them by the end. You're supposed to be rooting for them by the end, which I was not. I think you were supposed to like Max the whole time. And
well, I hate kids anyways, but it's difficult. The movie already has a hurdle.
And like you were supposed to feel for his parents, I think, like trying but not really succeeding at, you know, like being a loving family like they were supposed to be. But and I thought all the actors did a fine job, but I did not think that there was much to any of these characters for me to actually enjoy.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Yeah, that's true, but that's sort of the point.
But I'm not even talking about liking them. I'm just talking about enjoying them as characters, whether I liked them or hated them. I just didn't give a shit about any of them.
It's a difficult one, but I completely see what you're saying, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of bored with all of the family.
Yes, I didn't particularly enjoy the redneck family because I am a posh suburbanite. This movie is actually discussing that kind of role. I felt I actually connected quite well with the Adam Scott's character. I was rooting for him the entire time. He had the heroic sacrifice at the end. Not that it amounted to much, but it still was. I mean, actually, everyone kind of had in their own way their heroic sacrifices.
A sacrifice of sorts, or at least they attempted one. Sure, yeah.
I would say that Max is definitely the main character of this movie. If you're judging it by traditional fantasy style,
yes,
he in fact even looks like the old school kind of kid who would be in like the Goonies or the main character of those countless tales. And he did a fine job. I said to you at the end of the movie, Scott, that if I were in high school, I probably would have loved this movie. If I were in middle school, I probably would have loved this movie. And it probably doesn't hold as much meaning to me now, but it's playing a role, and I recognize the role that similar movies play to me.
You can appreciate what it's trying to do or be.
And I could see where the influences come from for it. So I don't know if Max developed enough for me throughout the movie to really call him having a complete arc. I don't feel like he really learned a lesson.
Sure he did. He completely reverses his wish at the end of the movie. That's the whole point.
But nothing amounts.
Well,
if
it depends on how you look at the ending.
You take your interpretation, it is. And I don't know how to judge this. It's really... This is the toughest it's been to the most. I want to give it a 0.5.
I agree. I wrote down 0 to start out with, but again, because of the nature of it, as we just said, and what their roles were supposed to be, can you fault them for only being narrow but they filled what they're supposed to be within the, as you said, this fairy tale-ish sort of setup?
I am going to fault them for it, because if I think back to similar movies like Home Alone with Macaulay Culkin, this character was more Home Alone 3 than Home Alone 1 and 2.
Right.
So it's right in the middle, and since there have been much better versions of this character, I'm going to have to give it a 0.
I'm going to use that same reasoning and keep my 0 from earlier.
I'm going to give it a 0, but it wasn't that close for me.
All right. Let's go on to secondaries.
All right, so...
Who were they, first of all?
Supporting cast. I mean, I guess the daughter, because she has about 5 minutes of screen time. And I thought her and Max were the most likable characters in the movie, and she immediately is gone.
That was actually a huge disappointment, because there could have been a lot of good...
Room for growth there, yeah.
Yeah, and they totally wasted that.
Mm-hmm.
Because his cousins weren't at all interesting whatsoever.
Yes, they were very boring. Yeah, I guess the cousins of Stevie and Jordan were the 2 girls, and then Howie Jr. is the kid that just doesn't talk, and they have a baby. Omi, the grandmother,
she's probably the best secondary character. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's probably if you don't count all of the Krampus's little side, all of his little helpers or whatever.
No, they're antagonists.
Those are probably the
they're
best.
Part of his crew.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think that speaks to a different question.
Okay.
But go on.
So, and then that's pretty much it for the...
Well, I count the entire family
Right.
as the supporting cast. So, like the wife, Howie.
Sure, yeah.
And they make an interesting point that you need to find something, like some common ground, basically to build off of.
Mm-hmm.
And they do. Krampus.
Yeah.
So
fleeing in terror.
Yeah.
Well, nothing brings a family together like imminent death.
Well, nothing unites anyone other than a shared enemy, of course, which I guess perhaps is one of the themes. But yeah, I also wrote 0 down for this one to start out with, and I don't know if I'm gonna change it.
I would say the grandmother was pretty good. I enjoyed her.
That's true.
Every time she was
I liked her.
on
She was a
screen.
well-done character, yes.
I liked the over-the-top nature of Aunt Dorothy. Like, it would probably either work for you or didn't. It worked for me. Again, I liked Max's parents, Tom and Sarah. I thought they did a fine job, especially they had growth as characters. Actually, all the adults had growth as characters.
We just said that they did.
So I don't know.
True.
I didn't. Aside from like their kids, the redneck kids, I really didn't hate any character in this.
I didn't really. All right, you know what? I guess in our grand tradition, for Oni, I'll give it a 1 probably.
Yeah, I hated a lot of the characters in this, and I don't know. I don't think I can give it a 1.
You don't have to.
I gotta give it a 0.
That's perfectly fine.
I demand you agree with my score, Steven.
Brings us to the dialogue in Krampus. Serene?
Oh my.
Yeah, that's probably it. That's a good description.
I don't think I remember any of it. I just saw this movie a couple hours ago. I'm at total loss here. I don't remember cringing at any moments. Or maybe I came close, but it wasn't memorable at all.
It was completely bog standard, and even like when they tried to be funny or have a couple of jokes, it felt completely fat to me. You're right. It wasn't. I never cringed, but it never was really all that engaging. And again, is that part of the whole, as you said, fantasy story setup thing? But certainly we've seen films that had good dialogue that were like that. So yeah, I think this is the easier one to say 0 on.
I was just gonna say I also do not remember any of the dialogue except for. I will somewhat disagree with you guys. I definitely did cringe at least one part, which I spoke about earlier when he's confronting Krampus and just yelling at him, "Hey, asshole!"
There's a moment where the redneck are like saying, "How do rich people get all these free gifts? It must be the Democrats." So that's one line I remember, which I don't know if that was thought to be clever. I didn't think it. I get what they were going for.
I didn't remember that as a joke. As you just said, it was a lot of it was forgettable. I think we will agree that all this was forgettable. Unless you pick something out, like here or there.
Yeah.
I think I said to you guys before the cast that they did drop in they name dropped a trope that I liked, but other than that, and I don't think anyone would have noticed that.
They had good references throughout it, but I think that is more towards the next section than this. So I have to give it a 0.
Zeros all around in dialogue. I think it's
for sure.
obvious. Right, which does bring us to style, and I will speak about. I think you're about to jump in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the style, the monster design, I thought was good. Krampus himself and his dark twisted elves and the gingerbread toys, or the gingerbread plus the toys. I think some of it I took as I don't know if, again, intentional or not. There was an evil bear with claws, like a stuffed bear, that I took as a reference to Five Nights at Freddy's, just because it seems to be everywhere. The Jack in the Box with the mouth. And the tremor. So was that also the tremor thing? Was it Jack in the Box underneath the snow, or was it some different monster?
I think it was Tremors.
All right.
It ate one of the elves, so I'm pretty sure they didn't come with Krampus, and they were always there.
Like another horror movie was happening as well. They're just waiting.
The Tremors worms in the town.
Now see, I was waiting for the snowmen to come alive, and that didn't happen either. Like,
that was actually, I think, the best.
A nice little.
The snowmen were the people that were taken. Did you notice there was one after the kid went up the chimney? There was one that looked exactly like the kid.
Yeah, I did notice that, but
I don't think they were the people. I think they were just built in the.
Maybe I did. I noticed
effigies of.
I noticed that they at least they had that in there.
So I think that was what it was supposed to be, because there were more and more as like more people went missing and like the storm intensified.
Fair enough. You know, that's pretty good, and if so, I give the credit on that front for sure. But as I said earlier, and I'll speak to it here, some of the fights, specifically the Howard versus the gingerbread, felt very Evil Dead-ish to me, or Army of Darkness, pick which one you want. Even in the fight in the attic, when the Jack and the Bugs were eating the one cousin, and they're trying to fight it off, and then that's when the bear also comes in and so forth. And like I said, the design of Krampus himself and his old evil coterie, all of that was fine. There was never any jarring shots. I thought the storm actually looked cool whenever they went in the blizzard. That was well done. So, if not the most amazing style, given that it's, again, fantasy, horror-ish that happens to be set during Christmas, I think it was well done. And
I think that this was the part of this film that actually shined and was actually decent. I thought that the monster design was really inventive. I liked the Christmas music
juxtaposed,
bringing a little bit of like the Christmas music, making a darker scene. And I thought the darkness that encircled the Krampus was done pretty well.
Yeah, I mentioned that this felt like a poor man's Guillermo del Toro, and it really comes across that
it almost looked like one, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
points.
I don't fault them for that because their work they don't have the budget, but it was clever. I think at times they did stuffed too much into a scene.
I could sometimes it approached that. I could see why one might say that. Yes.
So but I really like how they kept with the atmospheric stylings of both doing a darker fairy tale, and they did it well. And they, in fact, we mentioned earlier the entire flashback sequence with the grandmother.
Yes, and that was a cool scene.
Very much a fairy tale style scene. So I have to say, it was, for what it was well done.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to when I was talking, but that animation scene was really cool.
Give it points on that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so one's all around on style. Krampus is stylish, just nothing else.
Stylish as fuck.
All right, and finally, I think I know what you're going to say here, Steve. But do you recommend, and what's your final impressions of Krampus, the movie, not the man?
Well, I think this is a fine movie to watch if you're looking for a Christmas horror movie to put on the background of a party or something. But other than that, I would not recommend going out of your way to go see it. There are plenty of other better horror movies or Christmas movies out there.
I would actually really recommend this to a certain group of people. You've heard my explanation of what I thought this movie was. If you have that nostalgia for like the Gremlins of old, for that, Gremlins was a better movie. I'm not comparing it and saying it's a 1-to-1, but this is very much in that vein. If you liked toy soldiers back in the day, there's a 1-to-1 comparison. I really like that movie. So
I don't know. I like toy soldiers a lot better than I like this one.
Yeah, but you lost your childhood glint in your eye.
As opposed to the puppy dog eyes that you usually have.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways.
So if you want to, I think this was made with a lot of earnesty, a lot of heart, and if you're into that kind of movies, watch it. I think you'll enjoy it.
And I was hoping one of you would convince me, because this also was a difficult question to ask. So far, I gave it a good score narratively, but it's sort of forgettable. Like, I'm going to forget about this movie tomorrow and not really think about it. Yeah, maybe you could say it sort of has that feel in the... Yeah, but then I know you just said it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but if that's true, I'll just go watch Gremlins or something else.
Yeah, but I think this...
Right, it tries to tap into that. I get that. I just don't know, even if I would watch it again next Christmas, even, like, would I make it a tradition? Probably not. Like, hey, yeah, I remember seeing Krampus. It was alright. It was okay.
I'll certainly make Santa's sleigh a tradition long before I make Krampus a tradition, let me put it that way.
So it's really difficult for me to... I don't think I would tell people to go see it. And I would probably not watch it again myself. So I think I'll use that as my final, like, taking me over the edge. Even though I think it was a well-done story while I was watching it, I don't think I want to return to it. And nor can I, in all good faith, tell other people to check it out amongst other things, above other things.
So really strange way of describing that.
Yes, but either way, I've convinced myself to give it a 0 on my final impression, and definitely not really recommend it. All right then, so that's everybody. Let's do the scores. As I said, me giving it a 7. Steve, you gave it a 4. Ian, you gave it an 8. In fact, which
me and Krampus are bros.
Yeah, you're part of Krampus's elf crew. So that's 6.33, yes. Which I guess is, it's a little bit better than average, a little bit better than mediocre.
Actually, we're lower than IMDb is. It has Krampus at 7.
Yeah. Well, that's because everyone else is an idiot. Obviously.
Everyone
about Christmas movies, and they're the ones getting trampled in the opening scene. So, anyone have any final words about Krampus?
Nope. Watch out for him.
Watching he's coming better than going into a Krampus attack. So,
well, I hope Krampus will be coming to stuff you in a sack real soon. And if he isn't, we will be. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
If you like that sort of thing. And we'll see you next time.
And a Happy New Year, you filthy animals.
This has been MOTS. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Music by Chris Morgan.
Editing and engineering by Scott Thurlow.
This has been a Los Angeles production. All rights reserved.